everyone! Magandang araw po sa bawat isa. And today po, I am going to discuss the topic equations leading to quadratic forms. After watching this video lesson, you should be able to identify and solve equations in quadratic forms. Let us get started. An equation is in quadratic form if it can be expressed as au squared plus bu plus c is equal to 0, where u is an algebraic expression. We have this first equation, x to the fourth minus 10x squared plus 9 is equal to 0. What will be the value of u if we're going to write this equation in quadratic form? Au squared plus bu plus c is equal to 0. This equation can be written as the quantity of x squared raised to 2 minus 10 times the quantity x squared plus 9 is equal to 0. In this equation, the value of u is equal to x squared po. And then, this equation can be written in quadratic form u squared minus 10u plus 9 is equal to 0. Notice that in this equation, the highest exponent is 4 and the second highest exponent is 2. And if we're going to observe the exponents, the second highest exponent is half of the highest exponent. Therefore, we let u equals to x squared. For our second equation, we have 9x to the 6th power plus 63x cubed minus 72 is equal to 0. This equation can be written into the quantity of 3x cubed squared plus 21 times the quantity 3x cubed minus 72 is equal to 0. And our u here is equal to 3x cubed. Therefore, this equation can be written in the form u squared, since if this is u, we have u squared plus 21u minus 72 is equal to 0. For our third equation, the quantity x plus 2 squared minus 4 times the quantity x plus 2 plus 4 is equal to 0. In this equation, we simply identify u, which is equal to x plus 2, since we can write this equation into u squared minus 4u plus 4 is equal to 0. So, ito po yung kanyang quadratic form. For our next equation, we have the quantity 3x minus 1 raised to 2/3 minus 9 times the quantity 3x minus 1 raised to 1/3 plus 8 is equal to 0. Based on the power rule of exponents, the quantity 3x minus 1 raised to 2/3 can be written as the quantity 3x minus 1 raised to 1/3 raised to 2, since 1/3 times 2 is equal to 2/3 po. And from this po, the equation can be written as u squared, since this is u, minus 9u plus 8 is equal to 0, with u is equal to the quantity 3x minus 1 quantity raised to 1/3 po. So, ito po yung ating naging quadratic form. For our next equation, we have 81 over x to the fourth power plus 27 over x squared minus 4 is equal to 0. This equation can be written as 9 times the quantity 3 over x squared raised to 2 plus 9 times the quantity 3 over x squared minus 4 is equal to 0. In this equation po, the value of u here is 3 over x squared. And we can write this equation in quadratic form into 9u squared plus 9u minus 4 is equal to 0 po. And we have here an alternative value for u. We have here 9 over x squared po. Since 81 over x to the fourth can be written as 9 over x squared, or the quantity of 9 over x squared raised to 2 plus 3 times 9 over x squared minus 4 is equal to 0. So here, the value of u is 9 over x squared. Therefore, the quadratic form will be u squared plus 3u minus 4 is equal to 0 po. For our next equation, we have 2x plus the square root of x minus 1 is equal to 0. Note that x is equal to square root of x raised to 2, since square root of x is equal to x raised to 1 half. Then if we have another exponent 2, then x raised to 2 over 2, which is equal to x raised to 1 half po. So ito na po yung value niya. From this equation, we can write this equation in the form 2u squared plus u minus 1 is equal to 0. Since u is equal to square root of x po. And for our last equation, we have the quantity 3 over x plus 1 squared minus 2 times the quantity 3 over x plus 1 minus 3 is equal to 0 po. In this equation, we can easily determine the value of u, which is equal to 3 over x plus 1. Since we have already the exponent 2, 1, and the constant term. Therefore, this equation can be written in quadratic form, u squared minus 2u minus 3 is equal to 0. Let's have these steps in solving an equation in quadratic form. The first step is to determine the expression u to be used and express the equation in the form au squared plus bu plus is equal to 0. Then, solve the resulting equation and substitute back the expression u and solve for the original variable. Then, the last step is check your answer. We have here example 1. Find all solutions to the following equation. We have here x to the fourth minus 13x squared plus 36 is equal to 0. What will be the value of u here? We're going to let u equals to x squared po, since this x to the fourth can be written as the quantity of x squared raised to 2 po, minus 13x squared plus 36 is equal to 0. So yan po. Then, since x squared is equal to u, we can write this equation into quadratic form u squared minus 13u plus 36 is equal to 0. Then after that, let's factor po this quadratic equation in terms of u. And the factors of this are u minus 9 times u minus 4. Since negative 9 times negative 4 is positive 36, and if we're going to add negative 9 and negative 4, the sum is negative 13u. Since our coefficient here of u squared is equal to 1. So, ganun lang po yung ating pag-factor. Then, equate each factor to 0. U minus 9 is equal to 0. Then, u minus 4 is equal to 0. After that, we solve for the values of u. We have u is equal to 9 and u is equal to 4 po. Then, after getting the values of u, we're going to substitute this to the value of u here to find the value of x in this equation po. If u is equal to x squared and u is equal to 9, then x squared is equal to 9. Since x squared po siya, we're going to take the positive negative square root of 9. And square root of 9 is 3. Therefore, the values of x here are positive, negative 3. If u is equal to x squared and u is equal to 4, then x squared is equal to 4. And we're going to take the positive negative square root of 4, which is equal to positive negative 2 po. So the solution set for this given equation is negative 3, negative 2, positive 2, and positive 3. So you can check the values of x in this given equation po. You may substitute this or any of the values here in our solution to check if it is correct or the answers are correct. Let's have this second example. We have the quantity x squared minus 6x raised to 2 minus 2 times the quantity x squared minus 6x minus 35 is equal to 0. In this equation, we can easily determine the value of u, which is equal to x squared minus 6x. Since 2 na po yung nandito, we can write it as u squared already minus 2u minus 35 is equal to 0. Yan po yung ating quadratic form. Then, the factors of this quadratic form or quadratic equation in terms of u or variable u are u minus 7, u plus 5. Then, equate each factor to 0. We have u minus 7 is equal to 0 and u plus 5 is equal to 0. Then, the values of u here will become positive 7 since negative 7 going to the right will become positive. Then, u plus 5 is equal to 0. The value of u here will become negative 5. If u is equal to x squared minus 6x and u is equal to 7, then we can have the equation x squared minus 6 is equal to 7. And we can write it in quadratic equation ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0 into x squared minus 6x minus 7 is equal to 0. And the factors of this quadratic equation are x minus 7, x plus 1. After getting the factors, equate each factor to 0, we have x is equal to 7 and x is equal to negative 1. From negative 7, naging positive po siya. Then from positive 1, naging negative 1 po yung ating x. Another, if u is equal to x squared minus 6x and u is equal to negative 5. Negative 5 po ito. Then, we have this equation x squared minus 6 is equal to negative 5. And we can write it in this form, x squared minus 6x plus 5 is equal to 0. And the factors are x minus 5, x minus 1. Then, equate each factor to 0. We have x is equal to 5 and x is equal to 1. Therefore, the solution set is negative 1, positive 1, positive 5, and positive 7. So, yun po yung value ng x po natin or values ng x to make this equation true po. You may do the substitution to check if this solution set is correct po. The following are radical equations leading to quadratic form. But before we have the examples po, let's have the steps in solving a radical. Step 1, isolate the radical expression on one side, square both sides of the equation. Then, solve the resulting equation. And step 4, check for the extraneous solutions po. Let's have the first example of equation involving radicals. We have 3x plus 8 square root of x minus 3 is equal to 0. What will be our u here? The value of u is equal to square root of x. Since x can be written as the square root of x raised to 2 po. Therefore, 3u squared plus 8u minus 3 is equal to 0. And then, factors po. We have the quantity 3u minus 1 times u plus 3 is equal to 0. And then, equating each factor to 0, we have 3u minus 1 is equal to 0 and u plus 3 is equal to 0. Then, u here, in this first factor, is equal to 1/3. Since ililipat po yung negative 1 sa right, naging positive, then divided both sides by 3, kaya naging 1/3 po siya. And the other factor, u plus 3 is equal to 0, the value of u will become negative 3 or is equal to negative 3 po. And then, since we already found the value of u, let's solve for the values of x since u is equal to square root of x. If u is equal to 1/3, then we have square root of x is equal to 1/3 since u is equal to square root of x. Then we're going to square both sides po to eliminate po the radicals here. Since square root po yan, so nag-square po tayo both sides. Then we have x is equal to 1 over 9 since 1/3 or the quantity of 1/3 squared is equal to 1 over 9. And if u is equal to -3, then square root of x is equal to -3. The same process po, we square both sides po para maging x na lang po yung left side. Then we have x is equal to +9. Since the square of -3 is +9 po. And if we're going to check if the values of x that we get po, we have x is equal to 1 over 9. Let's substitute po to this equation here. We have 3 times 1 over 9 plus 8 times the square root of 1 over 9 minus 3 is equal to 0. And 3 over 9, since 3 times 1 over 9 is 3 over 9 plus 8. And the square root of 1 over 9 is 1/3 minus 3 is equal to 0. Then after simplifying po, we have 1/3 since lowest term of 3 over 9 is 1/3. And 8 times 1/3 is 8 over 3 minus 3 is equal to 0. Then we have 1/3 plus 8 over thirds. We have 9/3, which is equal to 3 since 9 divided by 3 is 3. Minus 3 po, kaya naging 0 po ang ating answer po. Therefore, the value of x is equal to 1 over 9 is a solution of this equation po. And if we have x is equal to 9, since we found also that the value of x is equal to 9, let's check po. If x is equal to 9, we have 3 times 9 plus 8 square root of 9 minus 3 is equal to 0. And then 3 times 9 is equal to 27 and square root of 9 is 3 times 8 is 24. Naging ganito po siya. 24 minus 3. And 27 plus 24 is 51 minus 3 is equal to 0. And the difference between 51 and 3 is 48, which is not equal to 0. So the solution set is 1 over 9 only. So yun po yung ating values of x. And here, +9 is an extraneous solution po. Yun po yung value po siya ng x pero hindi po siya solution of the equation. Ang tawag po natin doon is extraneous solution. Let's have this another example. Equation z raised to 2/3 minus z raised to 1/3 minus 6 is equal to 0. Our u here is equal to z raised to 1/3 since z raised to 2/3 can be written as the quantity z raised to 1/3 raised to 2. Since 1/3 times 2 is equal to 2/3 po. And if we're going to write this equation in quadratic form, we have u squared minus u minus 6 is equal to 0. And the factors of this equation are the quantity u plus 2 and u minus 3. Then equating each factor to 0, we have here, ito po. And then the values of u are -2, +3 po. If u is equal to z raised to 1/3 and u is equal to -2, then we have this equation, z raised to 1/3 is equal to -2. How are we going to solve for z? We're going to raise this term both sides by 3 para the exponent of z will become 1 na lang po. Therefore, we have z raised to -8 po. Since -2 raised to 3 is equal to -8. This means that we're going to multiply -2 thrice. We have -2 times -2 is +4 times -2 is -8. And if u is equal to 3, we have z raised to 1/3 is equal to 3. And same as we do here po, we are going to raise each side 2, 3 po. We have z is equal to 27 since 3 cubed is equal to 27 po. Then, if we're going to check the values of z, it we get po in our previous slide, we have z is equal to negative 8 and z is equal to 27 po. So, ito po yung way na ginawa natin to check if the values of z are true po. If z is equal to negative 8, we have 0 is equal to 0. So, it's true. If z is equal to 27, the right-hand side and the left-hand side are equal. Therefore, the solution set is negative 8, 27. So, yun po yung ating mga solution. We are to solve rational equations leading to quadratic form. And these are the steps in solving a rational equation. We're going to determine the LCD or the least common denominator of each or the rational expressions or fractions. Then multiply both sides of the equation by the LCD and solve for the resulting equation. And the last step is to check the solutions. Let's have this first example involving rational equations po. We have the equation 2x raised to negative 2 is equal to x raised to negative 1 plus 1. We can write it as 2x raised to negative 2 minus x raised to negative 1 minus 1 is equal to 0. Or we can write it in fraction form as 2 over x squared. Since to make this exponent positive, we're going to write it in the denominator part. Minus 1 over x since negative 1 po yung kanyang exponent. So, pag nilipat po siya sa denominator, magiging positive. Minus 1 is equal to 0. In this form po, you can use the given steps po earlier. But in this presentation po, I used the way on how to solve for x using or rewriting this equation in quadratic form. AU squared plus BU plus C is equal to 0. I let U equals to x raised to negative 1 since x raised to negative 2 is equal to the quantity x raised to negative 1 raised to 2 since negative 1 times 2 is equal to negative 2 po. And then, using the value here, we can write this equation into 2u squared minus u minus 1 is equal to 0 po. And then the factors are quantity 2u plus 1 times u minus 1 po. Then, after equating each factor to 0, the values of u are negative 1/2 and positive 1 po. Since u is equal to negative 1/2, then x raised to negative 1 is equal to negative 1/2. Since x raised to negative 1 is equal to 1 over x, katulad ng ginawa ko po kanina, 1 over x is equal to negative 1/2. Then, ang ginawa ko dito ay nag-cross multiply po ako, x times 1. So, yung negative po dito ay nilagay ko po sa 2. So, kaya naging x times 1 is x, then 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. Therefore, the first value of x here is equal to negative 2. And if u is equal to 1, then x raised to negative 1 is equal to 1. And 1 over x is equal to 1. Cross multiply po, we have x times 1 is x, 1 times 1. The denominator po ng 1 is 1. So, 1 times 1 is 1 po. Therefore, the values of x are negative 2, positive 1. Let us check po if these values are true solutions of this given equation po. Let us check po the values of x that we get on our previous slide po. We have x is equal to negative 2 po. If x is equal to negative 2, we have here 2 times negative 2 or the quantity of negative 2 raised to negative 2 minus the quantity of negative 2 raised to negative 1 minus 1 is equal to 0. And since negative 2 po yung ating exponent, so katulad po yung ginawa ko kanina na binaba ko po siya, naging 2 over x squared is equal to 1 over x plus 1. Or in this equation po, 2 over x squared minus 1 over x minus 1 is equal to 0. Then, naging ganito po siya. Since 1 over the quantity of negative 2 squared is equal to 1/4, since negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. And then, negative times negative 1/2 na po, since negative 2 po siya, magkakaroon po, dito na po natin ilagay yung negative. Then multiplying to negative outside here, magiging positive 1/2 po siya, minus 1. Simplifying, 2 times 1/4 is equal to 2/4, and its lowest term is 1/2 plus 1/2 minus 1. So 1/2 plus 1/2 is 1, minus 1 is equal to 0, which is equal to 0 of the right hand side. Therefore, if x is equal to negative 2, the equation is true po, both sides po. Then, if x is equal to 1, we have 2 times 1 raised to negative 2 minus the quantity of 1 raised to negative 1 minus 1 is equal to 0. Then, 2 times 1 over 1 minus 1 over 1 minus 1 is equal to 0. Then, 2 times 1 minus 1 minus 1 is equal to 0. And then, simplifying po, we have 2 minus 1 is 1, minus 1 is 0, which is equal to 0. Therefore, the values of x, which are negative 2 and positive 1, are solutions of this equation po. Therefore, the solution set is negative 2, positive 1. We have here the next example. 2 over z plus 1 over z minus 1 is equal to 1. In this example, I'm going to follow the steps in solving rational equations. The first step is to find the LCD. Since the denominators of these given fractions are not divisible by each other, therefore the LCD is the product of the denominators. After finding the LCD, we're going to multiply the LCD to each term po. We have 2 over z plus 1 times the quantity z plus 1 times z minus 1 plus 1 over z minus 1, so ito po yung term, times the LCD z plus 1 times z minus 1, which is equal to 1. So we're going to multiply the LCD z plus 1 times z minus 1 also. Multiplying po each term with the LCD, ito po yung naging result. 2 times the quantity z minus 1, since na-cancel po yung z plus 1. For the next term, na-cancel po yung z minus 1, so 1 is multiplied to z plus 1. And the value here at the right, which is equal to 1, is multiplied by the LCD, since ang denominator po ng ating value sa right ay 1 lang po. By distributive property, we have 2 times z is 2z, 2 times 1 is negative 2. And then, since minus po siya, we copy, then minus sign po. Plus, 1 times z is z, 1 times 1 is 1, and copy plus sign. Is equal to 1 times the quantity z plus 1 times the quantity z minus 1. Since yung ating LCD po ay sum and difference of binomial, product of this is the difference of squares po. We have z times z is z squared, 1 times 1 is 1. And since sum and difference po siya, the sign is minus po, following the difference of two squares. Yun nga po. And then, after po we simplify, we combine like terms po. 2z plus z is 3z, negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1, is equal to z squared minus 1. Then, writing this equation in the form ax squared plus bx plus c, we have z squared minus 3z is equal to 0, since negative 1 plus 1 is 0 po. So, in this equation, we have no constant term. And factoring po this quadratic equation, we have z times z minus 3 po, since z times z is equal to z squared and z times negative 3 is negative 3z po. Then, equating each factor to 0, z lang po dito, kaya naging z is equal to 0. And the other factor is z minus 3. And then, we have z is equal to 3 po. The values of z in this given equation are 0, 3. Let us check po if these values are true solutions of this equation. We have z is equal to 0 and z is equal to 3. Following the steps, we substitute z is equal to 0 to the equation. So, naging 0 po siya. 0 plus 1 is 1. 0 minus 1 is equal to negative 1. Then, simplifying po, we have 2 divided by 1 is 2. 1 divided by negative 1 is negative 1. Then 2 plus negative 1 is equal to 1, which is equal to 1 at the right side po. So, true po if z is 0. If z is equal to 3, we have 2 over 3 plus 1 over 3 minus 1 is equal to 1. Then, simplify po natin, 2 over 4 since 3 plus 1 is 4. And 1 half po siya since 1 over 3 minus 1 is 2. And 2/4 is equal to 1 half plus 1 half is equal to 1, which is equal to 1 at the right side po. Therefore, z is equal to 3 is a solution of the given equation. And the solution set is equal to 0, 3 po, since 0 and 3 are true solution.